Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm really excited for today's video because I am finally bringing you a video that I feel like I've been promising for months. Today we are going to be ranking every single foundation that I have brought into my collection this year. Three of them have been repurchases, so foundations that I owned in the past that I repurchased this year. I'm still going to be including those in my ranking, but I believe I have 16 16 foundations that I have purchased or have somehow come into my life this year that I'm going to be ranking with you guys today. That's a lot of foundation. I have a problem. If you guys are interested in hearing my thoughts and how I would rank these, there obviously some of them are like, I have tinted moisturizers and then I have full coverage foundations. So I'll explain obviously why I'm ranking each thing where it lies, but it's a little bit difficult because it's obviously going to be based on my personal preferences, which I will get into. But if you're interested in seeing how I would rank all of the foundations / tinted moisturizers that have come into my life this year, then stay tuned. First, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I would love it if you would consider subscribing before you leave. If you love just chit-chatting about makeup, we do a lot of that over here, as well as project pan videos. So if you aren't already subscribed, I would love it if you would consider. Other than that, let's just jump into this ranking because I have a feeling it's going to be a long one. Alright, you guys, we are going to rank from least favorite to most favorite. And what I will say, there are some foundations in here that used to be like die hard, like my ride or dies, that are falling a little bit lower in the ranks. And I think it's because my makeup preferences or my foundation preferences have changed a little bit this year, or a lot bit. I have found myself wanting to reach for or enjoying reaching for less coverage. In the past, I've typically liked a medium coverage natural finish, and I would say I still really enjoy medium coverage natural finish foundations, but even if it toes the line of light coverage, I've really been enjoying it because I have been really enjoying more cream and liquid complexion products as well. So bronzer, blush, and highlight. Sorry if you can hear, it's always so noisy. It's not construction today, I don't think. I think it's just like a motorcycle. Or if you hear dog noises, dog chewing in the background, I apologize. Before we get into it, I will say I do have normal to dry skin. I kind of explained the foundation preferences that I like. I don't typically like a more mattifying foundation unless it's like a comfort matte or a satin matte. So I typically opt mostly for a natural finish or a little bit luminous. I don't like anything that's too dewy, but those are my preferences, and that's things that I took into consideration when ranking these. I also tried to take into consideration shade range and things like that, so I will be popping pictures on the screen of shade ranges as we go along, as well as the price, etc. So if you guys are interested in seeing the ranking, let's get right into it. So of all the foundations that I brought into my collection this year, there are two that I no longer own, and that is because I did not enjoy them at all. Starting with the worst foundation that I personally have tried this year, and that was the CoverGirl Pretty Clean Fresh. I'm going to reference my notes, you guys. I have notes on every foundation. So it was the CoverGirl Clean Fresh foundation. Retails for $11.99. I do have pictures of each foundation on me in natural sunlight for everything except for these two that I no longer have. So this one retails for $11.99. This was a very sheer coverage foundation. I don't actually have the shade range for this. So this one comes in 14 different shades, which isn't amazing, especially because I feel like CoverGirl has released larger shade ranges in the past. This one is supposed to offer a glowy, dewy finish, which I do think it did offer a glow to some extent, but this was such sheer coverage and it was so dewy that I just felt it sunk into every single fine line that I have. It was almost like my fine lines were a vacuum and just like sucked in the foundation. So I literally was left with a face only with foundation where I had lines. It just did not look cute. This I believe was supposed to be clean beauty, formulated without parabens, etc. But it did also have aloe, why am I blanking on how to pronounce a word? Aloe and coconut milk, which I know some people can be very sensitive to coconut. And there are many people that did actually end up having reactions to this foundation. I was never one of them. I don't really have sensitive skin, but I did decide to declutter this foundation by the off chance I would have some sort of reaction to it. And even using this foundation as like a mixing agent, a lot of times I like to mix my foundations. In fact, I feel like almost every day. I'm never wearing just like one sole foundation. I'm always mixing it with something else. But even using this foundation to mix, I just didn't love it, which is a bummer because I was so excited for this one. The CoverGirl Healthy Vitalist Elixir, I can't remember how you say it. That used to be one of my absolute favorite foundations, and that one was discontinued. So I was really excited when they released this new one. I thought it might be reminiscent of like the L'Oreal Pro Glow, but this one was really bad in my opinion. And if you guys disagree, obviously everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but that one just did not work for me. Okay, and then the second foundation that I no longer own, I feel like is going to be an unpopular opinion, but is the NARS Sheer Glow Foundation. This one does have a good shade range. It has 40 different shades, but when I decluttered this foundation, I told you guys I always struggle to find a good shade match with NARS foundations. I don't know what it is. When I purchased the NARS Naturally, like Long Radiant, whatever that one was, that one I couldn't find a good shade for me either. So with the Sheer Glow, a large part of it was the shade match, I think, and I almost wanted to purchase a second in like a better shade, but I just was worried I wouldn't be able to find that better shade, and it wasn't a foundation that I was so in love with the finish or the coverage or whatever that I just didn't feel the urge to spend $47 again. This is one that is very expensive, coming in at $47. You also have to, it comes in a jar, like a glass jar without a pump. So if you want a pump, you have to purchase a pump, and it's I can't remember if it's $6 or $12, which pushes the foundation to over $50. Obviously, if this was your diehard foundation, you could reuse the pump, but I just feel like that's so expensive, and I know NARS is a more expensive brand, but I was really disappointed in this one as well. I also did not love this one as a mixing agent. It was a more natural finish, and this definitely wasn't sheer coverage. I would say it was more of a medium coverage foundation, but I felt like it almost just like clung to texture or dry patches, and it just didn't look great. And then that alongside the shade match situation, it just wasn't a good fit for me personally. So that is why I'm ranking this one at number 15. Coming in at number 14, I actually got this one sent to me through Octoly. This is from Kevin Aquan, and this is the Foundation Balm, and I got mine in the shade Light FB03. This one also comes with a brush, and this is a very full coverage foundation, and this is also a more matte foundation. So the reason that this one is ranking this low isn't necessarily because this is a bad foundation, but it's just not my personal preferences. So that is why everything else is ranking above this one. This one retails for $52 and comes in 20 different shades, which isn't the worst shade range, but also I feel like not the best, because if you were to split it into 4 categories, fair, light, medium, and dark, then each category would only have 5 shades to select from. I'm not necessarily sure that's even how they do it. Again, I will post pictures of the shade ranges on the screen. This says it's good for normal to oily skin, so it's not necessarily even geared towards my skin tone. I don't love the packaging or the application of this either. With the brush, I don't know, it's harder to apply. So I usually use the brush it onto my face, and then go over it with a beauty sponge just to make it look flawless. A little bit does go a very, very long way with this. It is a very creamy texture. So I suppose if you wanted to, you could paint this on with a finger. You could dip your beauty sponge in. I don't know how sanitary that is. The whole like in a pot thing just isn't sanitary in general to me, which isn't always like my personal biggest concern, but it's so matte, and it's a little bit drying. I don't know why I'm swatching it. It's a little bit light for me, especially when I was so self-tan this summer. This is a very long wearing foundation though, so if you're looking for something that's long wearing, this is a good one right now with the whole mask everything going on. Like, it does last a really long time, even wearing a mask, but it's just not my personal preference, not something I would go out and purchase again. $52 is very expensive. So I would only really recommend this to you if you have maybe normal. So I'd only really recommend this to you if you have more oily skin and are looking for a very matte, full coverage foundation. I don't always love full coverage either. I forgot to mention that in the beginning, but full coverage, definitely not my jam. I just don't like when it looks like I am wearing like a complete mask on my face. I like it when my freckles sort of show through a little bit. So that is why I'm ranking this one at number 14. And then coming in at number 13, I have this one. This is the Pure Lease Perfect Glow BB Cream SPF 30. Now, I do like this one. This one retails for $35, which I do think is pretty expensive. And it comes in 11 different shades. My problem with this one is, so this says SPF 30. It says matte meets glowy. You have natural looking coverage, and it's supposed to be moisturizing. I just find this one to be a little bit drying, and I have troubles pairing this with some of my more smoothing primers. Typically, if I'm going in with a tinted moisturizer, I do like to use a more smoothing primer just so it gives my face a little bit more of a flawless finish when I have that lighter coverage. And this one I tried to pair with the Milk Hydra Grip Primer, which always gives me trouble, but also the Laura Mercier Blurring Primer. Both of those, this pilled up on me so bad I had to remove my entire face of makeup and start over. So I do have to be very careful with the primers that I'm pairing this with. I have mine in the shade Fair. I do feel like this pulls a little bit more gray toned on me as well, which isn't always my favorite. It does say that this is good for all skin types, including sensitive. Again, I don't really have sensitive skin, so it's not like I can really speak to that or say that I had a breakout. I would always pair this with an SPF, even though it does have the SPF 30. It does give a nice, light, natural finish to the skin. I didn't feel like this was super glowy, and it isn't something that I would go out of my way to repurchase, especially at the $35 mark. So that is why I'm ranking this one at, I believe, number 12. Ranking this one at number 12. Next up, I feel really bad about this one. I feel like this is going to be an unpopular opinion as well. And the reason that I'm ranking this one at number 11 so low is because when I was looking back at the picture I took of myself with this foundation on, it really had sunk into my fine lines. And I was like, oh, so I have to pair this with a very smoothing primer, or I do really enjoy this one as a mixer if I'm mixing it with a more full coverage foundation. I really like it that way. So this is the ColourPop Pretty Fresh Hyaluronic Acid Tinted Moisturizer. This one retails for $14, and you do get, I believe, 1.45 fluid ounces. So you are getting quite a bit of product in this one. It does come in 21 shades, which I feel like is pretty good, especially for a tinted moisturizer. This does have coconut water in it. So again, if you're sensitive to coconut, please do keep that in mind. And there is no SPF in this. I feel like a lot of tinted moisturizers do come with an SPF. This one does not. I have mine in the shade Fair 4N, which I feel like is a pretty good shade match for me when I'm not self-tan, so I feel like this will be a good one for me for the fall and winter time. But I just personally have other tinted moisturizers that I think look better on my skin, look a little bit more natural, and this one just really sinks into my fine lines, which is why I had to rank this one so low. I think this is a good affordable option. I really do like mixing this with other foundations to kind of sheer it out a little bit, but just on its own, this one is not my favorite, which is such a bummer. I just have a couple other I just have tried other tinted moisturizers this year that I like a lot better than this one. I purchased this one towards the beginning of this year and I really liked it, but now I've tried just some better alternatives. So that's why this one is ranking so low. This next one I purchased towards the beginning of the year too, and I felt like I really liked this when I first started using it, and the last few times I've used it, I just haven't been as fond of it. And this is the Bite Changemaker Foundation. I have mine in the shade L15. This one retails for $39.50 and does come in 32 shades. I feel like that's a pretty good shade range. Again, I'll post some pictures to kind of see like where the shades fall. I don't have that sitting right in front of me. This one seems like one of the better shade ranges though, in terms of being like more inclusive in terms of all of the foundations that I am ranking. This, I would say, is a solid medium coverage, which I do prefer. However, this leans a little bit more matte than I prefer, and I feel like this one just can look a little bit dry on my skin. This one is pretty long wearing. I would say I get a solid like 8 to 9 hours out of this before this starts wearing away. It's just that this isn't as, and I know it doesn't like claim that it's going to be like glowy or anything, but it's just not, it doesn't give me like the healthy look to my skin that I'm really looking for. And I feel like that's another thing that I really didn't notice about this until I was like looking back at all the pictures of all the foundations that I have purchased this year and trying to decide which ones I thought looked the best on my skin. And I felt like at the beginning of the year when I purchased this was going to become a new holy grail for me. But I feel like when I finish this, I don't know that I would repurchase this one. It is on the more expensive end at $39.50. I feel like there is definitely a market out there for this foundation. I just feel like for me and my preferences, especially this year, this can pull, like this can offer even a little bit more coverage than I'm typically looking for and just look not quite as natural on the skin as I prefer. So what I thought used to be a favorite isn't as much of a favorite anymore. So coming in at number 10, I have the Laura Mercier Tinted Moisturizer Broad Spectrum. This has SPF 30. They reformulated, I think it used to have SPF 20. I could be wrong on this. And now it has SPF 30. This retails for $47. So really expensive. I had to take that into account when I was ranking these. I did try and think about price point. Retails for $47. Comes in 20 shades, which is, it's okay for a tinted moisturizer. I feel like for Laura Mercier being such a big brand, they could do better. That's just my personal opinion. This does, for a tinted moisturizer, offer more coverage than your average tinted moisturizer, in my opinion. I would say it's like a light coverage, light to light medium, like not like a full medium, but like if you built this, it's going to offer some decent coverage. It says it's good for all skin types, and I will say for a tinted moisturizer, I do feel like this has a really good lasting power. This pairs really, really nicely with other primers. I haven't had any issues with pairing this with primers, and I do really like this. I have mine in the shade 2C1 Blush. This will be really good for me this time of year, and also it might be a little bit dark for me in the winter, but I can always, you know, mix it with something that's a little bit lighter. I like this, you guys. It's just $47, especially when I have a couple other tinted moisturizers that I'm going to talk about that are still expensive, but I like a little bit more than this. I just don't know that I would pay $47 for this again. I used to. I'm still trying to finish up my tinted moisturizer in the illuminating version, and I'm really sad because I can't find the illuminating version anymore. I don't know if it exists, but I wanted to purchase this reformulated one to see how it compared to that, and I just don't love it quite as much. I still think that this is a really good product, especially considering how long that this lasts for a tinted moisturizer, but $47 is so much money, and I just think I would purchase some of these other tinted moisturizers that I'm going to get into over this one, so I don't see myself repurchasing this, and that is why I had to rank this at number 10. Coming in at number 9 is another tinted product. This is the Kosas Tinted Face Oil. This retails for $42, so still very expensive. This one has 16 shades in the range. I would say the medium shade range in this seems good, but it's not as good for the darker shade range, so definitely something to bear in mind. This claims to have a natural finish. I think it's more glowy than natural, but it's not too dewy. There is a fine line between like dewy and too dewy, or like luminous and just plain dewy greasy. I think this offers a really, really beautiful glow. I picked mine up in the shade 5, which I picked this up in the shade 5 because I wanted it to match me in the summer. I do feel like this is a little too yellow toned for me, or it's a little more yellow toned than I personally would prefer. This definitely has a sheer to light coverage, and you want to shake this one before using. As you can hear, it has like the shaker in it, so it like mixes the pigment up. This is very, very runny. I do have a full face of Kosas on my channel. I'll link that for you guys. But I was really surprised as to how runny this was the first time I used it. Like, it literally like will drip down your face. My preferred form of application for this is just use my hands. It's the easiest, and then I'll go over it with a beauty sponge. And if there's an area that I want like a hair more coverage, like if I want a little bit more coverage on my cheeks, I'll just tap a little bit of this onto my beauty sponge and then go over it on my cheeks. But I do think that this applies the best just using your hands to kind of buff it into the skin. You get your standard 1 fluid ounce in this, which I guess in the Laura Mercier one that's $47, you do get 1.7 fluid ounces. So you actually do get quite a bit of product in this. Still so expensive, but you almost get 2 ounces. So this is actually not as great of a deal. I think that this is a unique item to the market. I believe this came out before the Ilia Super Serum, and I don't know of another like face oil tint that was on the market before this. So in my opinion, pretty innovative. I would potentially repurchase this. I do have the Ilia Super Skin Serum coming up a little bit higher on the list, but I just personally love Kosas as a brand, and I would be interested to try a different shade for me. It's a really, really beautiful, beautiful tinted face oil if you are looking for more of a sheer coverage and something that just feels really nice and hydrating and comfortable on the skin. If you don't like your skin to look glowy, this is going to be a pass for you, but if you like your skin to just have that healthy glow to it, I think that this is really beautiful. I do think that this is worth checking out. I think that they could do better with their shade range, which I think they actually are working on expanding their shade range for 2021. Why they couldn't have done that in the beginning, I don't know. I'm not a makeup brand, but I just wanted to point that out. So this is my number 9. Coming in at number 8, you guys, this one's such a bummer, and a big part of this is the price point. But this one is the Pat McGrath Labs Skin Fetish Sublime Perfection Foundation. I wanted to love this so badly because it was $68, but I just don't know that I can get on board with this in a sense of it's a foundation that I would spend $68 on again. This is the most I've ever spent on a foundation. This does come in 36 shades, which I would have expected from Pat McGrath being a Black-owned beauty brand. So 36, I think that's a pretty decent shade range. This says it's good for all skin types, which I would agree. This probably is good for all skin types. This one is another one that's very runny. Like when I squirt this onto my face, it like immediately starts running down my face. So I'm always ready right there with my brush. This one, I will say, okay, so this, let me finish going through everything. It's a natural finish, light, buildable to medium. I would say yes, I do think it is like a light to medium coverage. It's definitely not anywhere like medium full. It's more like on that light medium realm. What am I trying to say? Light medium part of the spectrum. I don't even know if I would ever consider this a full medium. I haven't tried to like really build this, but I have been mixing this, and I think that this is an amazing mixing agent. Today I have it mixed with my YSL All-in-One Glow foundation, and I just love the two paired together. But on its own, I just think this is fine. Like, it's pretty, it gives a nice glow. This does have amazing lasting power, especially for being more on the light to medium side. I will say that I do think that this has really good lasting power, and especially if I'm like wearing a foundation that has less lasting power, I'll mix this in, and I do find that it gives more of a lasting power, or lasts for a longer amount of time. So I do really appreciate that about this foundation, but $68 is so expensive. If you like luxury and if you like lighter coverage foundations, I think you would really like this. And trust me, I like this. It's just $68. I don't know, you guys. I don't know that I could do it. There's a couple other ones that are ranked much higher that I feel like I would prefer, but I have been having fun mixing this the last couple of weeks, I will say. So like, I could see myself somehow talking myself into purchasing this again in the future. But right now, this is my number 8, and I will say it's a lot of money to spend on a foundation that is just a light to medium, unless you like luxury and that's the finish you go for. It's very long lasting, so you may like it, but it's very expensive. Coming in at number 7, this one was a repurchase for me. I have owned this in the past. This is the Smashbox Studio Skin 24-Hour Wear Hydrating Foundation. And this one, I'm trying to figure out, oh, I have mine in the shade 0.5 Fair. And this one is a cooler undertone. You guys, I have become obsessed with self-tanning to the point where I want to continue self-tanning all throughout the winter. And all of my foundation shades, I swear, for the most part, are for like my very, very fair skin tone, this one included. So this one retails for $36, comes in 37 shades, so a really good shade range. It does have a good deep shade range in my opinion, better than a lot of the other ones that I've talked about today. It does have a natural, it says it has a natural matte finish. I don't get the matte in this. I think it's more natural, if anything else, possibly even like a hint luminous. Says it's good for all skin types and, or sorry, it is a medium coverage and it says it's good for all skin types. I would say that this is definitely a solid medium. So this one is supposed to be very, very long wearing. I wouldn't say this is the most long wearing foundation that I have ever worn in my life. I expected this to last a little bit longer, and I feel like this one is best set with a powder. It does feel very hydrating on the skin, but for a foundation that's supposed to be like long lasting, I feel like it needs to be set with a powder, in my opinion. Now, I do like this. This I actually selected as the one foundation I would keep if I could only keep one foundation in my collection earlier in the year. That answer has since changed, and this one is now ranking quite a bit lower. I no longer think that this would be a repurchase for me when I finish it. My preferences have changed so much this year, you guys, and I know myself, and I know how much I like to, obviously, this video is a prime example, I know how much I like to try new foundations, so I really just want to lock my collection into like my top 5 and then leave a ton of room to be testing new foundations. And I would just say, if I was going to like reach for this, there's one ranking higher that I would reach for instead of this. So this I don't think is one that I would repurchase. Coming in at number 6, this used to be, again, like a die-hard, ride or die favorite of mine. This is the Too Faced Born This Way foundation. This is, I believe, my 4th or 5th bottle of this. This retails for $39. There are 35 different shades. Says it's good for all skin types, has a natural finish, medium coverage that can be built to a full, and it's an oil-free foundation. I will say this is more full coverage. Like, this to me is a medium to full coverage foundation. This toes the line of, like, if I were to build this, this would be getting to the point of like almost more full coverage than I typically prefer on a day-to-day basis. I have mine in the shade Almond, which I think is a really good shade match for me. I've gone through like so many different shades. I used to have Snow. I also had Vanilla, and now I've finally settled on Almond, which I do think is a really good shade match for me. This one I do still really, really like. This one, to me, it almost is like a satin matte finish where it just has that healthy look to the skin still, but it almost has this like mattifying effect to it that I actually enjoy, and I do not enjoy a matte finish. So I do really enjoy this finish. I think it has a very unique finish to a lot of the other foundations in my collection. There have just been some foundations that I've tried this year that I ended up liking just a little bit more than this. However, that being said, I could still see myself repurchasing this just because there is like a special time where I just feel like wearing this. This and the Dior Forever foundation, I like go back and forth between, and I probably could just own one or the other. But for some reason, I just really like having both in my collection. There's just something special about this foundation that has always had a special place in my heart. So even though this isn't like my top, tippity top favorite anymore, I could definitely see myself repurchasing this when I finish it. Whew. All right, you guys, we're into the top 5. I feel like my voice is kind of going. My number 5, I am so impressed with this one, you guys. This is the Ilia Super Serum Foundation. This has SPF 40 in it, and it also has niacinamide, squalane, and hyaluronic acid, so it does have skincare benefits to it as well. This one is similar to the Kosas Tinted Face Oil in that it's like an oil, and I think it's best applied with the hands. This comes in a dropper form as well, so super unique that it comes kind of in a dropper form. This one, I don't know if you have to shake before using. Yep, shake before use, but it doesn't have like the ball in it or whatever that shakes it up. I have mine in the shade ST4, which I think is a really good shade match for me. This one retails for $46. You get the standard fluid ounce. It is good for all skin types. It gives a glowy finish for sure, a very beautiful, like healthy glow. This is one I feel like the longer that it's on your face, the better it looks as well. And I also think that this one plays really nicely with other products. I've never had issues with mixing it, or not mixing, but like with laying my cream products on top, even setting it with a powder. I think that this one plays really nicely with other products. You know, you always get those like foundations that just like don't play nicely with others. This one, not the case. It says that it takes 30 to 60 seconds for the color to set in once applied, and I would agree with that. And that's another thing where I do find that this one oxidizes a little bit throughout the day, maybe like half a shade, and I just feel like it looks better and better as it sits on your skin. This is another one that's very sheer to light coverage. I've loved this one for the summertime. It's so beautiful. If you set this one with a powder, I find that it doesn't really transfer, and this one will last a decent amount of time. I would say 7 to 8 hours, which I feel like is really good for a product like this, especially if you set it with a powder. And I've just been super impressed with this one. I feel like this will definitely be one of my go-tos, definitely a repurchase, a go-to for like vacations, summertime, etc. I have just been so happy to have found this year, and I think it is a very, very beautiful one. I believe this is the newest one to my collection, but I am so glad that I picked this up. I picked this up completely on a whim. I did not need this, but I'm really glad that I picked it up. This is the Tarte Maracuja Tinted Hydrator. I feel like I've been hearing nothing but good things about this, and I happened to be at Ulta or Sephora, I can't remember which one, and I was like, you know what, why the heck not? I picked mine up in the shade 22S Light Sand. This retails for $29, which I actually felt like was a pretty decent price. You do get the standard 1 fluid ounce in this, and this does have 20 shades within its range. Again, could be better, could be worse. 20 shades for a tinted moisturizer is better than 20 shades for a foundation. This is a vegan formula, and this does not have SPF in it. So another tinted moisturizer that doesn't have SPF, which is fine, because usually, almost always, unless it's like been a really bad day and I forgot, I'm always putting an SPF underneath my foundation anyway. This one has very sheer coverage, like very sheer. So if you don't like sheer coverage, you won't like this. But if you like a sheer coverage and just like to even out your complexion, but like still look like your face, I think you'll really, really enjoy this one. This is another one that I think is perfect for the summertime, perfect for if we can travel again, vacations. I'll definitely be bringing this one with. I think this is supposed to have skincare in it as well. I don't have those notes in front of me, but it feels very, very hydrating on the skin, very, very comfortable, plays well with my cream products, and that's really all I have to say about this. I think it's really nice, and I've been really, really impressed with this one. Number 3, we're on the top 3 now. This one was a rebuy, and this is just going to forever be a staple in my collection. And the only reason I'm ranking this at number 3 is because of the price, and because I don't reach for this necessarily on a day-to-day basis. This is one I kind of pull out for more special occasions. If I'm going out, if I'm going to like see people, I'm talking about like in 2019 or before. But this is the Dior Forever Foundation. I freaking love this. This does retail for $52 and only comes in 28 shades, so I do feel like they could be better about expanding their shade range. It has a matte, I would say like a velvet matte finish. It's so comfortable, and you guys know I don't really like a matte finish, but if I need a foundation that's going to last me all day and remain beautiful, this is another one that I feel like almost looks better the more that you wear it, as your natural like oils start to come through. But this is definitely like a comfort matte finish, kind of like that velvet matte, satin matte. SPF 35 in this actually, which I thought was interesting. Again, I don't really rely on my foundations for SPF. This says it's good for all skin types, all day wear, and it's a medium to full buildable coverage. I would agree with that. I think one layer you're going to get nice medium coverage with this, but you can definitely build it up to a full if you wanted to layer a second like layer onto it. And I don't find that it ends up looking too cakey. I also feel like this one you can sheer out. I like to mix this one with my Pat McGrath as well and get a more sheer coverage, and it's still going to last. I mean, these two together, your makeup's going to last 3 days that's an exaggeration, but it is very, very long wearing. This is my second tube of this. I also have the Dior Glow that I purchased last year, which is so beautiful, but this is a staple in my collection. I will always own this. I really love that one. Coming in at number 2, you guys, I'm so glad that I decided to pick this up. I kind of picked this one up on a whim too, and this is one where I feel like this kind of replaces like that Smashbox 24-hour one. Like I would definitely reach for this one over the Smashbox one, and this is the new ColourPop Pretty Fresh Hyaluronic Hydrating Foundation. This retails for $16. You do get the standard fluid ounce in this. I'm going to look down to reference my notes. This comes in 29 shades, medium buildable coverage. It has good longevity. I will say this one does last me a good amount of time. This one I've worn to work, and it doesn't wear away in like a way that's not pretty. Like it wears away gracefully. This one has kind of a luminous finish to it, kind of like that healthy looking glow to the skin, where it's not dewy, but it's also like you still look like your skin's alive. This one does have coconut water in it as well, so just bear that in mind again if you have a sensitivity to coconut, but I think this is so beautiful. $16. I know some people were thinking that it was a little bit high for ColourPop, but I think $16, even like drugstore prices are really creeping up there. The L'Oreal Pro Glow at full price, I swear, is like $12.99. So $16 I think is a good price for this, especially for a foundation that I feel like performs at high-end level. This is another one, like if I had my Dior Forever, I probably wouldn't need my Too Faced Born This Way, and I could just have this and be super happy. I just think that this is stunning. I almost didn't buy this. I'm so glad I did. If you like a natural coverage foundation that's going to last all day and still give your skin a very healthy finish, I would recommend checking that out. Whew. And then coming in at number 1, you guys, I hate to use the word obsessed, but I feel like I am obsessed with this. And I know in the picture it kind of looks like it's sinking into my fine lines. I like to pair this with a smoothing primer, but I freaking love this foundation. This is the Giorgio Armani Neo Nude True to Skin Natural Glow Foundation. This is so beautiful. This gives the most beautiful finish to the skin, the most natural, healthy looking finish to the skin, just like it says. That's exactly the finish that I'm looking for. So this one retails for $40. It only comes in 24 shades, and one of them is a mixer, and there are only 2 deep shades, so not great there. And I will say that is an issue. I'm sure we all know this. That is an issue with like the like luxury brands, and like Giorgio Armani obviously is like also a fashion brand. I feel like that's a huge issue within those brands, so there's definitely a ton of room for improvement within their shade range. This is good for all skin types. It does offer a healthy glow, and it is a light buildable coverage. I would say you could definitely build this to medium coverage. It's like the perfect amount of coverage for me with just one application. I do like this best blended out first with a brush, and then I go over it with a beauty sponge. I feel like it gives me that perfect, just like light to medium coverage, like leaning more towards medium. I just think it's the finish for this one that just has me completely sold. I think it is so beautiful for day to day, and I feel like some of the, like the Dior Forever, like I just can't wear this one to work because it just looks too much like I'm wearing makeup, whereas this one, I still just feel like my skin looks healthy and my skin shines through, which is why this one has my heart so much. I just have absolutely fallen in love with this. This is another one that I really just picked up on a whim. I had heard Mel Thompson talk about this, and then the spring Sephora VIB sale was going on, and it like popped up under recommended for you, and I was like, sure, why the heck not? And I love this one. Again, the shade range on this is disappointing, so I would say this one, like these two really could be a tie. It's just this, the finish on this one I like just a hair more, which is why I ranked it at number 1. But if you're a deeper skin tone, this is going to be stunning on you if you still like a more natural, like lighter coverage, but still can be built to medium. This is going to be a really good option for you as well. So I am out of breath, you guys. After that, that is going to wrap up me ranking all 16 foundations that I have brought into my collection this year. I just today ordered the Oma Beauty foundation. And I also have another one that I recently got in my BoxyCharm that I just haven't tested yet. So we still got more foundations that I'm going to be testing this year, which is crazy. My foundation collection is out of control, like literally out of control. But I have had a thing for foundations and trying them this year. Leave me a comment down below. I would love to hear what your guys' favorite foundation is, or maybe like the worst foundation you've ever tried. I would also love to hear your opinion on that. But other than that, that is going to wrap it up for today's video. If you've made it until the end, bless your heart. Thank you so much for sticking around. You guys are the most supportive. You always put a smile on my face. I love reading your comments. So thank you so much for supporting my channel as you always do, and I will catch you guys in my next video. Bye.